Hi folks, I'm Doug Reid and this is a short video on how to set up your bandsaw for resawing. I hope you enjoy this. Let me know if you like it. Make sure you hit the like button and subscribe. Thanks. The first thing that I do is make sure that my fence is square to the blade on the flat side of the blade, and I'm using a good quality square. I got this one from Bridge City Toolworks years ago, but you can use a machinist square, anything that you know is accurate. Tilt the table using the trunnions down below, and that's really all there is to that. There is a set screw behind there that you see that can be set to repeat to square, so you don't have to check it nearly so often. I also want to make sure that the knurled nut and screw on the front, the machine screw, is in the table so that the table is lying flat, and I just put a straight edge across that and bring it down. That's all there is to doing that. So once our table is square and we have our screw set so the table is going to be flat, we can go ahead. Here's a quick tip for you. When you want to fold or unfold a bandsaw blade, what I do is grab it at 1 o'clock and 3 o'clock, one thumb up, one down, and just fold it in on itself. And I'm doing this in slow-mo right now so you can see it, but that's really all there is to it. Put a wire tie on it is what I do to hang it up on the wall. When I want to unfold it, I just toss it on the floor, preferably on a mat. Now, I mentioned I should be wearing gloves here. Anytime you're handling a sharp tool like that's a good idea. Let me show you one more time how it folds up. Just as easy as that. Definitely wear your safety glasses. Now, let's get back to setting up for the resawing. Now, folks, when you're setting your bandsaw to cut straight for resawing or rip cuts, we have to kind of throw out the way we learned to set up a table saw. You know, with a table saw, you want to have your fence parallel to the blade, and you want to have the table also parallel, or the miter gauge slots parallel to the blade and the fence. Because we have drift in the blade, and what I'm demonstrating here is just showing you that drift, how the blade can twist one way or the other, and each blade is going to be a little different depending upon how that blade is made, how it's sharpened, how the teeth are set. So you're not going to get the exact same path on each bandsaw blade. So what we have to do is compensate for that drift, and once we do that, resawing and ripping becomes a very easy process to do. So what I have here is a piece of wood with a straight edge on it, about the length of the bandsaw table, nothing special. And then the other piece of wood here is just to draw a straight edge with. So I'm going to draw a line parallel to the one edge, and I'm using a marker here just so you can see it better. I would probably just use a pencil or pen in my own shop for a little better accuracy. But that's all there is to it. It needs to go about halfway the distance from the fence to the from the blade to the end of the table there. Now, what I'm going to do here is just freehand that cut, and this is another important thing. You don't want to try to force this. You don't want to try to make your piece of wood straight to the table or parallel to anything, really. It's a freehand cut, but by doing that, you're staying on the line. You will be adjusting the piece of wood to actually match the drift of the blade. And if this doesn't make sense once you do it once or twice, I think you'll see how easy this is and really how intuitive and simple it is to do. So make sure your guard is all the way down. I'm using cool blocks here. And folks, a bandsaw cuts faster than a table saw, so please use all your precautions that you possibly can. I've got my dust collector turned on, I've got my bandsaw turned on, and as I go to make this cut, you'll notice that I'm just freehanding and I'm concentrating on staying on the line. If you were to look at the edge of the wood compared to the lines on the bandsaw, you will notice that they are not parallel, but that's fine. The reason for that is I am just sort of automatically adjusting the angle of that piece of wood as I'm cutting it, and I don't think about it, I just stay on the line. But this is the real important key right here. And once we get about halfway across, we're going to stop the bandsaw, being very careful not to move the piece of wood, turn the machine off, and we're going to clamp our piece of setup wood here onto the bandsaw. And you'll see there it's quite a bit out of parallel with the lines on the table. So you want to have a couple of clamps set up and ready to go. Hold the piece of wood down, clamp it on both sides, and you might want to do a test run of this before you make your cut, just to be sure that everything goes a little smoother than you're seeing here. But the important thing is I've got the piece of wood clamped to the table so it can't move. Now this is a very good view of what's going on here. You can see how that piece of wood angles along here. It's not parallel to the lines on the bandsaw table, and that's fine. Now what we do is raise our guard up out of the way, bring our fence over, and I just want to touch it, barely lock, the bottom twist lock, and see how it pulls in, and it's not quite perfect. Let's look at it from another point of view here where you can see what's happening a little better. As I tighten this in, not quite right. So I use the set screws on the back side of the fence to bring it in. And all I'm doing is visually sighting along the piece of wood. And again, I slide the fence over, lightly, just lightly lock it down until it pulls in perfectly parallel. Once that's done, I lock the fence, and that's really all there is to it. That fence is now set to that blade, and you're not going to have to change that setting until you change blades. All right, this is a piece of pretty dense oak, and I'm going to resaw it down to about 1/4 inch. I am using a 5/8 inch blade on the machine. I have done this with a 1/4 inch blade, but a bigger blade is a little stiffer. I make sure that the tension is pretty tight. And once I've gone through the process of setting up the fence, as I just showed you, this should be very easy to accomplish. And we just slide it right through. Folks, it's always a good idea to use a push stick in a situation like this. I am pretty careful, but always recommend use your safety gear. And let's just take a quick measurement here. And it should be the same end to end, edge to edge throughout. And there shouldn't be any twisting, bowing, any problems like that whatsoever. This will do a beautiful job, folks, if you're making jewelry boxes, toys, shaker baskets, veneering, anything at all that requires thinning out your wood. This is the way to do it. If I do have any variation in this, I might take one light pass through my planer.